All right, starting brand new chapter, chapter 8, 8.1 in algebra. The title is ax equals b, x over a equals b, and a over x equals b. And although that looks confusing, what it really means is a is your coefficient. So an example of a grade 8 question like this would be a is your coefficient, x is your variable, and b is your equivalent value. All right. So a very simple basic one would be negative 2x equals 4. Would be an example of a grade 8 ax equals b question. The x over a, we would have x over negative 2 equals 4. Would be an example of that type of question from grade 8. And in the a over x, we just did some in our last video, you'd have 4 over x equals negative 2, for example. The third example, we haven't done much in grade 8. We said that earlier. But the other two, you definitely have experience with those types of one-step algebraic equations. So in our exemplars, we have the first question of 3x equals negative 2/3. Now I think about what the context of this question is. 3 people gave me an amount of money. 3 people gave me an amount of money, x money. And I ended up with, and forget the negative sign for a second, 66.6 repeating cents, so to speak. How much money did each person give me? Well, this question would be an algebraic equation that I could use to solve it. What would I do to both sides here to isolate the variable? Well, let's pretend this didn't exist. Let's pretend this was simply the number 9. What would I do here to both sides to solve it? Divide both sides by 3. Oh, wrong one. So the same thing is going to happen here. I'm going to divide this side by 3, and I'm going to divide this side by 3, but I'm going to keep it like that instead. That's going to be an opposite operation. I've isolated x. Once I solve what negative 2/3 divided by 3 is, I'll know the solution for what x's value is. So here, I'm going to keep the first fraction. I'm going to change to multiplication. And just like our warm-up here, I'm going to think of it as the reciprocal of 3, which is 1/3. Once I get that, what's the solution? It's going to be multiply the numerators to get negative 2, multiply the denominators to get 9. The value of x is negative 2/9. So process-wise, that totally makes sense. And what I would like you to get into the habit of is test your answer. Make sure it's correct. So since we have 3x equals negative 2/3, what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my solution and I'm going to substitute it into my x. So I'm going to see what is 3 multiplied by negative 2/9, or 3 over 1 multiplied by negative 2/9. I'm going to double check my solution. Multiply my numerator, so 3 times negative 2 is negative 6. 1 times 9 is 9. In lowest terms, negative 6/9 reduces down to negative 2/3. So therefore, I've checked, oh, for heaven's sake, I've checked my solution, and negative 2/9 is the correct answer. In our second question, we have half of x is equal to the fraction 5/6. Another way to think of it is half of what fraction? Half of what fraction is 5/6? If you did it mentally, what is it? Half of what fraction is 5/6? Can you do it in your head? 10/6, right? Half of 10/6 is 5/6. So if you're really good at mental math, you know your answer is going to be 10/6, right? Because half of 10/6 is 5/6. Let's just double check. I'm going to isolate my variable by multiplying both sides by 2. Here, I do it like that. But over here, since I'm dealing with fractions, I'm going to actually multiply it by 2 over 1, or 2. Multiply the numerator, I get 10. Multiply the denominators, I get 6. Aha! Good mental math, Mr. Mac. That's a mixed fraction. Reducing that down to a mixed fraction will be, there's 1/6 with 4 over 6 remaining, which in lowest terms is 1 2/3. And our last example, C, is very complex to come up with a question that makes sense with it because we're dealing with negatives and positives. But if we think about it as this template right here, ax equals b, which is what it really is, coefficient variable value, it's not as hard. How will I get rid of a coefficient of negative 1 and 1/4? I'm going to divide both sides by the coefficient. So here I'm going to divide by negative 1 1/4, and I'm going to divide by negative 1 1/4. I know that multiplying by negative 1 1/4 and dividing by negative 1 1/4 are opposite operations. Y is isolated. The quotient to 1 3/4 and negative 1 1/4 will be the answer. So I'm going to change these to improper fractions. I'm going to keep the first fraction, change the multiplication by the reciprocal of the second fraction. Smart people do what right now before they multiply the numerators and multiply the denominators? Smart people will always check for cross reduction. And right here, I can cross reduce those, couldn't I? Both are divisible by 4. So I can go negative 1 over 1 if you want. Okay. I'm going to go do it without cross reduction. I just want to make sure those people who are capable can do that. Negative 28 over 20 will be the product, which is negative 1 and 8/20, which in lowest terms, both are divisible by 4, is negative 1 and 2/5, because you can divide both numerator and denominator by 4. So therefore, y is equal to negative 1 and 2/5.